Salut! Asculți Diasporacast, un podcast cu și despre românii din diaspora, dedicat tuturor românilor. Diasporacast este disponibil pe YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts și pe majoritatea platformelor de podcasting. Dacă îți place ce auzi și dorești să ne susții, poți folosi linkul de donații de pe site-ul din descriere www.diasporacast.com.
Bine v-am regăsit! Eu sunt Vlad, gazda podcastului Diasporacast și înainte să începem interviul de azi, vreau să vă spun câteva cuvinte despre el. Am stat de vorbă cu Simona Bartoș, o tipă foarte interesantă, plecată de multă vreme în Statele Unite ale Americii și din acest motiv am ales să înregistrăm acest episod în limba engleză, pentru ca ea să se simtă cât mai confortabil, urmând ca undeva în toamnă să lansez și varianta dublată în limba română. E destul de mult de lucru la ea și nu am foarte multă experiență cu chestia asta, așa că vă rog să aveți răbdare cu mine și va urma și varianta asta. Până atunci vă invit să ascultați acest episod și așa ca o foarte scurtă informație despre proiectele noastre, Diasporacast se va reîntoarce din toamnă cu un nou sezon, cu invitați interesanți, invitați surpriză, dar și alte tipuri de emisiuni pentru voi despre viața în diaspora și sunt convins că o să vă facă plăcere să le ascultați. Până atunci, vă las cu interviul meu cu Simona și vă urez o vară plăcută în continuare. Ciao! All right, we are live with Simona. Hi, Simona.
Hello.
Thank you for accepting my invitation to be a part of Diasporacast.
I'm very honored. Thank you so much for including me. I think what you're doing is a amazing service to all of us who have been in different countries for any length of time. So thank you for sharing.
Well, I am honored to get the chance to talk to everybody, every Romanian that's been a part of the expat community for a longer or shorter period of time. Why don't we start off by you telling us a few words about yourself? How old are you? How long have you been abroad, so to say, and where exactly are you?
So I am 46 years old. I am originally from Romania, Bistrița, județul Bistrița Năsăud. We live in South Florida in the Hollywood area. And we came to the States in 92, 93, actually January of 93.
All right. So quite a while ago, I think I'm not mistaken when I say that you are the longest, guest that was the longest or has been the longest gone from Romania.
That's so cool. I didn't know that. Right. That's so cool.
Yeah, that is cool. And how was it? How did you make that decision?
I basically followed my boyfriend at the time, husband now. His father had immigrated before the revolution. I think it was in 89, 88 maybe. He fled the country for political reasons and economical reasons as well. He fled to Austria, where he sought political asylum. And then from there, he came to Miami. Then his family followed, his wife, his daughter, and my boyfriend. So I basically followed them with the intention of getting married and staying here.
That was a huge step.
When you're 18 and
at such a young age. How difficult was it? Did you have a visa? How did you get in the States back then? Was it the same as today, or?
No, it was not like today. I ended up coming with a visitor visa to visit family and friends, and then I overstayed. Yes.
Okay. But you didn't get in trouble or anything like that?
Well, yes and no. I didn't get in trouble per se, but it did take us about 10 years to get a green card because we had come illegally, I guess, or we have overstayed our legal visa, we were put in a category that had no priority in receiving, the process. We also had come at a time where Romania was already a free country, so we could not invoke any kind of fear of persecution or retribution. So basically, we were told that we can very well go back to Romania and restart our lives. We have no reason to be afraid. Yeah. So it took us 10 years to get a green card.
And how did it work? I mean, were you able to work without a green card, or how did you manage?
Yeah, that's a good question. My husband had received a work permit somehow, and I didn't. I'm not sure how they decided that one of us should have it and the other one not. But thank God that he was allowed to work and pay taxes and become, a regular citizen. I was not. I was not allowed to work. As a matter of fact, my first job really was more than 10 years after arriving here for that reason. Yeah, a long, long time.
I mean, not even go to school or anything like that. There's basically, you're just there and you can't do anything. You can just go about your day.
You can do everything except work. So that's the route that I took. I went to school. I went to school right away. For the first year, I went to language school. I took ESOL classes where basically you just learn the language. And as soon as I graduated from that 5-step program, I went straight to college. So I started my education right away. And it was fortunate in that sense, looking back. One, because I had always wanted to go to college, and two, really, I had nothing better to do. So it was my only outlet.
Right.
Yeah.
What did you study?
My journey is very convoluted, but I started with nursing. Then I got my associates and bachelor in nursing, and ended up going to physician assistant school. I graduated with a master's degree in public health, and my first job was as a physician assistant, which I did for about 8 years. And then I went back to medical school, where I started from the beginning. Medical school. Yeah.
All right. That's cool. Was it what you always wanted to do, or was it, how did it work? I mean, medicine in general.
Yes, I always had a passion for medicine. I think coming from Romania, every good little girl wanted to become either a nurse or a doctor or something along those lines. Right. At least my parents always encouraged that and appreciated that. But I didn't know at the time when I started my education how far I wanted to go. I didn't have the courage then, I think, to think of medical school, to think that I could do it. I didn't know that I'm smart enough or that I have the support and the motivation and what it takes. And I was pleasantly surprised, God willing, to have discovered that over the years and to realize that not only do I want to do it, but I can do it. And it is within my reach. So I was very blessed.
Well, congratulations. I guess, everybody has to have a little bit more confidence in their own powers. Yeah. Especially since you took a huge leap of faith, basically. I mean, going halfway around the world without knowing what's going to happen and what you were going to do is a pretty big thing. And I think that's pretty brave.
And it's interesting because for me, in our family growing up, I was not raised in the current philosophy that we use now to raise our children, basically, where we tell them, you're so smart, you can do anything you want, just set your mind to it and do it. We basically were told, my sister and I, that since we don't have the financial ability to support you through college, that basically is out of the question. So throughout high school, we did not even consider that because financially we just could not support that. So in this country, definitely things are different, where if you want to do it and you have half a brain, you can do it. Yeah.
Well, it's important that you managed to do it. And what are you doing right now? What are you working right now?
I am a dermatology resident. I am in my third out of the 4 years of training. And I'm hoping to open a private practice here in the Miami area upon graduation in a year and a half. Stay tuned.
All right. Well, good luck. I wish you the best of luck with that. How you mentioned that you took English classes at the beginning when you got there. So I understand you didn't speak English before. Or did you speak it a little, or how was it?
Well, I took English in high school, and throughout school, as all of us have. So I had a very basic knowledge, but it did take me a year. Pardon me. Of going to the ESOL programs every day. So it was my full-time job for a year. Actually, during that year, I also got pregnant with our first son. And I remember sometimes having to take the bus because my hand-me-down Volvo was, broken down. And you know what?
Broken down Volvo, that can't be.
No, it was that old, believe me. So I was taking the bus many times. I remember being pregnant on the bus. Actually, one time I was craving plums. And I remember I got so sick on the bus, I was throwing up all over the place. So, but you know what? I felt like you got to do what you got to do, and there's no shame, or there's no nobody really cares. Nobody looks. So you got to do what you got to do. So. Yeah, a whole year. I did that for a whole year.
Well, the reason that I'm asking is that at this podcast, a recurring theme is we try to get our listeners to understand how important it is to learn the language of the place that you're going to emigrate to if you're not already there. And even if you're already there and you don't really speak it that well, we want to emphasize how huge of an advantage that brings. And I think, and maybe you can agree with that it wouldn't have been the same if you didn't speak any English, or would it?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And I think one of the reasons why it's very important to learn the language is that if you ever have any hope of assimilating and becoming an American in this case, you really have to submerge yourself in the culture. And that was exactly my intention. And I think I was lucky to have come at a young age where I was very intentional about it. So we watched television in English, we read in English, we went to school. When the children were born, we basically were Americans. And not that we didn't want to be Romanians anymore, but because I really feel that you cannot really be a master of two cultures, of two languages, of two politics, political systems. So we were following the American politics. So I really think that you have to make a choice. Do you want to be a very good Romanian, or do you want to be a Romanian American that is basically belonging to this country now? So I think it's 100% important. And I knew I wanted to go to college. So how do you excel in college competing with the American kids? You have to speak the language. You have to be culturally competent. So that is a prerequisite. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
Well, I find it very interesting the way you put it, and I guess you're extremely right, because I see that every day, these days, and over here in Europe, where we're kind of close to home still, the majority of people that have emigrated in Europe are still kind of thinking of going back home at one point, and they're not really trying hard enough to become a part of the community where they're currently living. And I kind of find it wrong, because even if you want to go back at one point, if you're not going to try to understand or try to be a part of the culture of the place you live in right now, you're probably still going to be miserable until the day you make the decision to go back home. And I guess it's even more important when you really want to stay there. Absolutely. I mean, there's no question about it. Otherwise, you're just going to feel like an outcast, maybe, or yeah, I mean, you're always going to find something to to discuss and say, yeah, they don't like me because I'm an immigrant or God knows what else. But if you try, and especially if you learn the language, it's going to be a lot better. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I think you also have to always live the moment. So you make a choice, or for whatever reason, you live in a certain country or you're in a certain community. You might as well make the best of it until the situation changes. So when and if you go back to a different country, then you will become that citizen again. But for now, honor the choice that you made. Don't second guess yourself. All of us that have immigrated have made such a hard choice and have put so much thought into this decision. So let's not second guess ourselves, but support our choice to say, we chose to come, let's make the best of it.
Yeah, that is a very good point. How was it for you in the first year or first years or so? Was it difficult with missing home, for example, or how did you feel?
It's interesting because my husband and I had diametrically opposed experiences coming here. I was always of the opinion that you always have to look forward. You have to basically forget what's behind you and look forward. Whereas my husband, it took him quite a few years to not want to go back to Romania and call this country his home and his. Basically, he invested himself 100%. But for me, it wasn't that hard. I left behind my parents, my cousin. We are a small family, so a handful of people, which I missed. I missed them terribly, and we spoke on the phone and visited as much as possible. But no, it wasn't hard. I was basically just looking forward and feeling very lucky that I was given this choice because, I graduated high school and basically had no glorious prospects. I graduated Mechanica Fina, and, we were doing our practical training in one of the factories. And I was seeing the young women working in the cold winters with, stained, their hands were stained with oil, and it was just cold and miserable. And I was thinking, is this going to be me in a couple of years? Will I end up working in a factory and in something ridiculous like that? So when I was given this choice, to me, it was like incredible. It was out of this world. And I felt so appreciative that I couldn't be too sorry about it. There were not enough reasons to really be heartbroken about leaving.
Yeah. Well, I guess back then the decision was easier because just getting out of communism, there was a lot of problems anyway. It wasn't that it was all of a sudden perfect, especially at the beginning of the 90s.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was a pretty easy and obviously the best decision that you could make. How often did you get to visit back home? Did you keep in touch with everybody back home, or did it with time did it get sort of lost?
We kept in touch. I wouldn't say a lot. We were not very. I don't know how to say it. We were a close. My parents were divorced since we were young. So we were raised by my mother. We were not as close as maybe other families are. So we kept in touch in a way that was appropriate for us. And we spoke on the phone and visited every couple of years. But no, I wouldn't say that we were really looking back and trying to hold on to the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I like it. I like your attitude. I wish I could do that as well, but sometimes I do find myself missing home, We're not a huge family as well, and my parents are divorced as well, and my mom raised me and so on. And I'm not necessarily a tough guy, but I'm pretty tough when it comes to sentimentalisms and stuff like that. But I do find myself sometimes missing home, like these days, for example, when we're recording and we're recording this for everybody that's listening when the podcast comes out, because it's going to come out in a couple of weeks or so. At kind of in the middle of this coronavirus crisis, and we just found out that they declared an emergency status in Romania. That means that even if I want to go home, which normally I have vacation in 1 month, and I should, I was planning to go back home, I'm not going to really be able to unless this thing clears out until then. And, that's kind of what makes it worse right now, because normally I don't want to go back home every month, but now that I want to go back home once a year or something and I can't, it's kind of making things worse. So I appreciate when someone is able to detach themselves 100% and say, okay, it is what it is. We're just going to wait it out or whatever,
Yeah, I also think that we've made here our home. And once again, I'm very fortunate to have my sister here with her husband, my in-laws, my mother-in-law, and my husband's sister. So we have a small family, but we are here. So this is our new home. This is our family away from the old family. So I don't feel like I'm not home. And like you said, it takes a few years to really make the new location your home, and then back in the old country is your first home. Yeah.
Well, it's awesome that you have your home, your whole family there, basically.
It is. It's
in any case.
Yeah.
Are you an American citizen now?
Yes, we are.
You are?
Yeah.
Was it a difficult process? How long does that take? And what do you have to do?
It took us 10 years to get a green card. Once you have a green card, it takes about a year or two to become a citizen. So that's not a problem.
Okay.
The whole key is to get a green card because that is the first validation that you're a legal citizen in the process of becoming a citizen. So yeah, becoming a citizen was not hard. Getting the green card was really hard.
Right.
And we were able to do that basically through my father-in-law, which had become a citizen a few years after arriving here. And then he applied to reunify his family. And in due time, which was 10 years, our turn came and we became residents. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a very painful process. We paid many, many thousands of dollars to lawyers. We were in court very often. It was, as a matter of fact, at some point, the judge gave us 3 months to leave the country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he decided that Romania was a free, beautiful country, and there's no reason for them to approve our process. So he gave us 3 months to liquidate everything we own, to sell all of our properties, and to leave the country. Yeah, wow. It was scary.
But it sorted itself out.
Yeah, so we appealed basically, and the lawyer was able to get us more time. We were basically waiting for my father-in-law's process to kick in so that we could be approved through him.
Was Florida the first place you went to when you got there? Or did you?
Yeah, it was Florida. When my father-in-law was in Austria, in the lager, in the political whatever,
the camps,
in the camp,
prison camps, yeah.
He was lucky to get a sponsor. One of the Romanian guys that lives here was sponsoring refugees, so he got sponsored by him and brought here. And then I guess they take care of you once you get here with some basic lodging and some advice. So yes, that's where he was brought to Hollywood. And we've stayed all this time, 28 years or so.
All right. Is it nice? I mean, are you in that sort of region where they get hurricanes and stuff like that? Because Florida, I mean, I know Florida from TV, from movies and stuff like that, but I still find it scary with the hurricanes and whatnot.
Yes, we are in paradise, basically. What you see on TV is very close to reality. Beaches and palm trees. Hurricanes do come, but we don't really get scared about them. We're very prepared. Our homes, we put up shutters on the windows. Many of the new homes have electric shutters or impact windows. It's easy to get a supply, like a 1 week supply of food and water. And we haven't had a serious hurricane. So in like almost 30 years, we've had maybe 2 hurricanes that were serious. We have good insurances. At the second serious hurricane, our roof was damaged and our pool deck, the insurance basically replaced them. So it's really not a problem at all.
All right, that's good. Yeah, to me, I really find it scary. I'm kind of scared of severe weather. I mean, not any storm or anything like that, but when it gets to hurricane force, it's kind of scary. We had that in Germany about a month ago. It was never as serious as the hurricanes that hit the U.S., but it was still called a hurricane, winter hurricane, and the winds were pretty bad, but they weren't more than 60, 70 miles an hour or so. But everything just shut down in Germany. It was kind of funny because they just stopped the trains and everything like that, and nothing moved for 24 hours. And yeah, I just had the feeling that was a little bit too much. I mean, I can understand you might be in danger when, I don't know, trees fall over or stuff. But yeah, I think it was a bit too panicky.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch TV here, you think it's the end of the world because the media just goes crazy whenever they get a chance, just like with this virus now.
Don't even get started on that.
But almost like through a hurricane, you look outside, there's barely any wind, there's barely any rain. People are almost like wanting a little bit more because they are hunkered down. They're like, where's the hurricane? The kids are at the beach riding the waves. It's really not that bad at all.
I understand. Do you still visit Romania?
We do. Yeah, we were there a couple of years ago. Yeah.
And you mentioned you have children. How many children do you have? And are they still in touch with their sort of Romanian heritage? Do they speak the language? Do they know anything about the country?
Yeah, we have 2 children. Our son, Jonathan Gregory, he's 27. And our daughter, Rachel, is 23 soon to be. They're both college graduates. Initially, we spoke Romanian to them when they were young. But pretty soon, as soon as they went to school, they started speaking English. But we were staying in touch with the culture. We are part of a Romanian church where we were going at the time. And then we kind of transitioned to more American gatherings. But they went to Romania a few times with their grandmother, where they spent the summer. So they kept up their language skills. And it's interesting that my son, after coming back from college, graduating his undergraduate studies, he basically became Romanian again. So he went back to the Romanian church. He became one of the youth leaders. He totally embraced the culture and he appreciated the fellowship and the brotherhood, I guess, that they had. And now he's more Romanian than all of us together. It's so funny.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, and they love the country. They every time they go to Romania, they have a great time. So it's funny to see them come full circle. They were Romanian, and then they became American because that was the thing to do. And now, especially our son, he's like back to being a Romanian, and he loves it. So we're very happy.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Maybe he'll want to have a chat with me as well at one point. I really want to get the opinion of someone that was born and raised in the States, but he still thinks of being Romanian, and that would be, I think, very interesting to listen.
Oh, absolutely. And he married a Romanian girl. Basically, they grew up together from the same Romanian community, and they are the cutest little things. So, yeah.
Cool. You did mention the Romanian Church and the Romanian community. Is it a huge community? Are there many Romanians there, or what? Can I ask what kind of church it is?
Yes. So there are about, I don't know, 10,000 Romanians, maybe even more in this area of Hollywood, and they are scattered among the couple of cities that are close to us. But I know in downtown Hollywood we have, let's see, one Pentecostal church. We have 3 at least Baptist churches, and at least one Orthodox church within like a 5-mile radius. So it's absolutely amazing.
All right. Yeah.
And it's so beautiful to see the people really gathering around, in this case, around religion, but basically maintaining their community, maintaining the friendships and the culture. As a matter of fact, I went recently to a funeral. My friend's father passed away from skin cancer. And,
sorry to hear about it.
Oh, thank you. And he was a quiet guy, relatively unknown. Nothing, he was not a celebrity by any means. And on a very normal Tuesday morning, I went to the funeral. And I was so moved to see hundreds of people that took off work to come to the funeral. And we put together the most moving and beautiful celebration of life. And it just dawned on me how, it's easy to not really appreciate what you have and the culture and the family around you. But when push comes to shove, it was those few hundreds of Romanians came around them and were with them, for the viewing and for the funeral. And the support and the love was just unbelievable. I was so shocked. I could not believe that we are capable of doing that. It was very beautiful. Very beautiful.
How about this? We have a place in the show where we discuss about 5 things that you like more in US than you like in Romania, and maybe 5 things that you miss from Romania. It's been a while for you, I'm sure, but maybe you can still find a few things to compare.
Sure. I would say 5 things that I appreciate about America. I would start with, I already mentioned it, basically being able to almost do anything you put your mind to. And specifically, the ability to climb the ladder without having to pay bribes. I was pretty young in Romania, but I know my parents' generation, basically everywhere, whenever you wanted a door to open, you had to give something to somebody. And even at a young age, I found that you're kind of losing your dignity in the process. And actually, I was very happy that my mother never bought into that system. So here, you don't have to pay bribes. I have come to, in my education, to a doctorate level. And up until this point, I never had to do that. Relationships are still important and good recommendations are paramount, but you don't have to pay bribes. So that's amazing.
And if I may, 30 years later, it's kind of still the same in Romania. Not a lot has changed. As sad as that sounds, it has gotten better in some fields, but I know cases, and there's always something on TV where people, for example, such as yourself, that are trying to become a medical doctor or get a position someplace, in a public hospital, have to pay in order to get the job, or at least know the right people. So it's still happening 30 years later, which is sort of sad.
It's very sad. And back to being a doctor, I was working in trauma years ago, and one of the patients that did very well, he healed and he recovered, and his family was very grateful. And they brought us basically a box of chocolate as he was being checked out. And my boss basically sat me down and told me that I should kindly decline the chocolate as a gift, because it's not very ethical for physicians to accept gifts from patients. And it just blew my mind to think of the contrast of what happens in other systems, and how we really hold ourselves above reproach here. So I really like that very much. And the parallel with the education, the second thing I would say, irrespective of the ability to finance yourself, you can get pretty far in your education, at least to a bachelor degree. My sister, for example, came legally. She won the visa lottery, actually. And she was able to go to college right away and to graduate with her 4-year degree without having to pay one dime. She was able to qualify for whatever programs they had. So she got a 4-year education for free. So unlike Romania, where if your parents were not wealthy enough and you could not get the loans that you needed, you could not pursue education. So that's pretty amazing. What else do I like about here? That everything is figure-outable, especially now with the internet and Google. It's probably the same in Romania now, but you basically Google it. Everything is online. You can get access to information. You can figure it out. You can set your mind and do it.
Even if we do have access to Google and Romanian internet is very high speed and so on, the problem here is that the country itself is not that figure-outable, because even though, there's still a lot of things that you can do online, maybe not most, but at least 50-50. I mean, half of the administrative things you would have to do, like paying taxes and stuff like that, are still not impossible, but pretty difficult to do online. And the systems were put in place about 10-15 years ago, and nobody took care of them in the last 15 years. And they're stuck in time, basically, and they crash a lot. And it's just horrible. And there's stuff like, I don't know, getting a new ID. Your ID expires after 10 years. You're not going to be able to do that online. You're lucky if you can get an online appointment, and then you have to go anyway, to get your picture taken and so on. And I don't know if that's the same in the States, but in other places, like in Northern Europe, for example, you can do everything online. You can upload your own picture, and you're just going to get it in the mail, maybe,
Yeah, we still have some bureaucracy here when it comes to the city and the government-led organizations. That is still archaic, but the rest of the systems are pretty advanced, I would say.
I would expect it from the USA anyway. It's an unfair comparison in any way, comparing Romania to the US, but still. We want to get there, we don't want to go back in time. We want to catch up to the bigger and better countries, so to speak.
Right, for sure. Now, on the other hand, what I think Romanians have an advantage is how we are very resourceful, emotionally and intellectually resourceful. We can improvise. We can make it work, even when we don't have the supplies that we need or the materials. And I think my generation and the older people, more probably than the younger people, because we grew up not having stuff. So I remember my father-in-law back in Romania. They had I think it was a Mercedes or some fancy car. And one of the pieces broke, and they could not replace it. They had no access to parts.
Right.
So him and my husband and another friend of theirs basically made the mold. They poured the piece, the metal piece. They poured it, and then they manufactured it until they created the piece. So we don't take no for an answer. We just think of ways of getting it done, and we invent it. I was last week. I was with one of my colleagues at work. He's Russian, so very similar mindset. And we were doing a big surgery, and we needed a drain, which is basically a plastic tube that you put in the wound to drain out fluid. And the staff told us that we don't have the drain. It's a no-no. It's a no-go. So we looked at each other and we said, well, what else can we use? So we looked through the closets, through the materials, and we found a tube that we could use, and we proceeded with the surgery. So I love that we don't take no for an answer. We just figure it out. Yeah. One thing that I would mention of this culture, the American culture, is the fact I was very surprised how willing we are to work for free. And what do I mean by that? Up until this point in my career, I have spent probably as much time volunteering or shadowing greater people as I've spent working for money. And we really value here basically being in the presence and watching somebody great work and basically copying their style. And I think that we don't see that so much in Romania, where people are very focused on the bottom line, where, okay, why would I do that? Am I being compensated? Am I being paid enough? But I think the value of hanging out with a CEO or with a business owner or with a great physician gives you more value than $100 that you would have made if you were paid for it. So it's a different change in perspective. Shadowing for charity as well, and shadowing to learn a skill or as an apprentice. So I think that's a big difference. Yeah, another thing that's really great, especially here in South Florida, is that the society is made up mostly of immigrants. So we are the normal population. You go to the hospital, half of the physicians are from other countries. So you are one of them. You are not the outsider. You are not, you're not the Romanian guy who's trying to come in. You are one of the doctors. You're one of them. So you don't feel excluded. They are not so stuck up to say, this group is the best and all of you immigrants are, lucky to be allowed to play with us. So
that's very interesting.
It's amazing. And like I said, half of us have accents and we're from different countries and different cultures. And it's the way to be. It's awesome. Yeah. There's no feeling of superiority by the other American. It's nice.
Well, that is pretty nice, I bet. And if I was going to compare that with my experience in Germany, the funny fact is that Germany doesn't really see itself as a country for immigrants. But I have to say, the people that I work with, my colleague that I work in the same team with is also Romanian. I think I have maybe 3 German colleagues, 2 from India, 1 from Syria, and everybody's from somewhere else, And Germany still doesn't see itself as an immigrant country. And it's not that used to it still, which to me is surprising. But yeah, you still kind of feel yourself as an outsider. But it depends on which people you meet, basically, because there are some really nice people that are interested in your culture, at least, even if they're not going to be all friendly and stuff like that. And there's also people that are going to give you the stink eye when they hear you have an accent.
Right. Yeah. No, here it's easy. I'm very very pleasantly surprised. And I used to be so self-conscious of my accent and have tried, I guess, subconsciously really hard to lose it. But now, when you look around, everybody has an accent from somewhere else, and we all understand each other and we get along, and it's not a big deal anymore. It's kind of accepted that you are who you are, and it's okay.
Well, yeah, that's cool. I mean, my personal opinion is that this sort of multicultural type of environment has more advantages than drawbacks. Anyway, it's just that people have to kind of see that as well. I mean, the locals, so to speak, have to see that as well.
Right. Yeah. Here,
Cool.
As long as you contribute, everything else is basically put on the back burner. If you contribute, if you're a good citizen, if you're a good human being, you have a chance. So it's on you, which I like, that personal responsibility.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. Any other things?
No, it's up to you. You're the boss. It's your show.
No. I mean, if there's any other comparison things between US and Romania that
let's see. I don't know. Let me think about it.
What about the food? Do you miss the food? Do you cook it, the Romanian food?
I used to cook Romanian for the longest time. Now I'm basically making more American foods. But my mother-in-law still cooks Romanian, so she makes sarmale and chiftele and you name it, But yeah, we still enjoy the cuisine. It's hard to make, though. It takes forever to make the stuffed animals, but
it does.
Especially like for Christmas and Easter and holidays, we all go back to the Romanian cuisine. Yeah,
cool. Obviously, after a long time, I guess you don't really miss it that much. You're used to it, and in the States, you find everything you want to eat anyway. So
I make easier meals now. Something that takes me half an hour to 45 minutes. I don't want to spend a whole afternoon making soup, even though I love soup. But it's easy to order out or to figure it out.
Do you ever see yourself going back for a longer period of time? For example, in your old age after you retire?
No, I don't think so. Unless something dramatically changes geopolitically, I don't think so. Like I said, we feel more at home here. We don't know the system back in Romania. So when we visit and we have to take care of some paperwork or some kind of documents, we feel like a fish out of water.
Would you have any advice, or better said, what would be the advice you would give to Romanians wanting to immigrate to the US right now? What do they have to watch out for? What do they have to do, basically?
I would say if you can come here legally with the ability to work, it's an absolute win for younger people. Let me backtrack. If you're under 40 and you're really looking like a forward-thinking person, if you're under 40 with the ability to work here, I would say definitely come. If you cannot work here and you would be doing some construction or cleaning or what have you, I would say absolutely don't come. Because the road to becoming legal is so long and painful that you're going to pull your hair out. So if you're youngish, if you can work and you're motivated, I would say it's the best thing ever. Learn English like you were doing, watch TV, become culturally relevant, to be able to integrate soon. But this is truly the land of possibility. I mean, if you work hard over the years, you can achieve many of your dreams. And it's on you. So I like that you're basically almost the only variable between you and your success. So if you're willing to take that, responsibility, definitely come. I think it's the best place to do it. They basically give you a platform where you can play. And what you do on that platform, it's up to you. But the world is your oyster.
Well, that is very interesting. And an hour is already gone by. It was faster than I would have expected it, actually. But the conversation was very interesting. I think we're going to wrap it up here. I want to thank you very much one more time for taking the time to do this with me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope we can maybe talk again in the future about things.
I would love to. And I would love to connect with anyone that would find it useful. If they have any specific questions about Florida, maybe, or medicine or things like that, I'll leave it up to you if you want to leave them my email. But I look forward to connecting with people and being of help. I was helped a lot when I came, and I think information is the most powerful thing that you can give somebody. So if I could be of any help to anyone, it would be my honor.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I want to wish that you have a very lovely rest of this day.
Thank you so much. And thank you again for doing all of this good work. I think it's very well appreciated, both by the current listeners and the future listeners that will be able to find a piece of themselves in the stories that you tell.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.